Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming podcast, and we have a very special guest today, Elizabeth. I didn't ask you how you say your last name. Is it Falloon?
It's Falloon, just like balloon, but with an F as in foxtrot.
Perfect. Well, welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thank you, Alicia.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a mom, and I'm a proud mom of an amazing, soon-to-be 16-year-old young man, and but I'm also a single mom, and there was actually a time in my life when I became a broken, struggling single mom. So, however, I was able to work my way through to the top, and life has just beautifully unfolded. So here I am.
I resonate, and I know that a lot of people listening will resonate with a broken mom and slash or single mom. The heaviness of that is very present to me.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how you went from broken to thriving.
That's a great question. I just know that when shortly after my son was born, there was a phone call that was received, only to learn that his father was no longer coming home. And when I heard those words, the walls were not just only spinning, but I felt as if a boulder also just literally just slammed into me and pushed me up against the wall and just completely crushed me, because my son was just shy of 3 months old. And when I fell to the ground, I literally felt as if I just broke into 1,000,001 different pieces. I shattered. And by that, my emotions, between feeling confused, between feeling worried, scared, all of that, every single emotion you could possibly imagine. And I use the term broken because that's what it felt like, just shattered completely. And I literally fell flat on my face. But as I lay there was a voice in me that said, you must get up. I don't know if it was the voice from God or my inner voice, but I literally can't even actually see it and feel it as if it were yesterday. The voice in me said, get up. And I didn't get up right away. I turned my head and I opened up my eyes and I got up. I didn't get up and start walking. I crawled. And it was throughout crawling, I experienced and learned some of the most valuable lessons, not only in life, but about myself and who I was. So, going from being broken to feeling as if I'm so unstoppable, it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It was a journey. It was a true journey, a very long one too. So
what I love, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, then you can continue. But what I love about your analogy, because at first I thought, that you meant physically crawling, but then I realized that you did it was an analogy for crawling. And what came into my head is that, like, there is actually a really important function in our brain to go from crawling to walking. Like, there's really important brain development that I couldn't, like, elaborate on if you paid me $1 million right now, but, like, I know there is a really important process in brain development of crawling before walking. Not only physically do we need to build the muscles, but there is something that happens in our brain that's important that comes from crawling. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Now continue with your story.
Thank you for sharing. Because it's interesting, it's because that's what it felt like. And when I use that analogy, because I wasn't ready to start walking. I was so weak mentally, emotionally, and those muscles were not developed. So good point about building those muscles of resilience, right? So crawling actually allowed me to build those muscles of resilience, which allowed me to start walking. However, the crawling part of it, picture this. It felt as if when you're on the ground and I'm going through muddy waters, right? And I'm coming in contact with all sorts of people. And these were all other broken single moms. And no judgment at all, because they were there for support. However, everyone was in pain and just as broken as I was.
Mm.
So, how much is that actually going to help me get through this? Not a whole lot. Again, no judgment. But I just knew that it was throughout that experience coming in contact with those women who were struggling just as much as I was with the pain and the anger and the bitterness of having to raise their children on their own. I learned that I needed to step away from this. And it's time to make the necessary changes and just start believing in myself even more. And then once I made that conscious decision, a stranger literally showed up because it was too painful. It was too painful to stay on the ground and continue to crawl it. And by that, I had built up those muscles. So it was time to start walking. But the stranger showed up and literally handed me a stack of audio CDs. It's a true story. Actually, one of my favorite thought leaders today, which is the late Wayne Dyer. I had no clue who he was. I had no clue about thought leaders. All I was told was that I need this. And life could not be any worse. I said, okay. So that was the moment. That was my breakthrough moment.
What I love about that is that it's, they say that you are like the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that you are the culmination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so if you're in a situation where you don't enjoy being in, that you want to grow out of, look around at your circle. Are the people that you're around people that are going to pull you up, or are they people that are keeping you in place? So I don't know if you're familiar with that, the analogy of, like, when crabs are in a bucket. I don't know why crabs are ever in a bucket, but when they're in a bucket, if one of them tries to climb out, and as it gets up,
Crabs in a barrel, they're pulling each other down.
They start grabbing each other. They start grabbing the one that's trying to pull itself up, and it starts pulling them down. And it's like, that's what happens with our circle. It's what happens with our family if we're not surrounded by people who are on the other side of that wall. That that are reaching back in and pulling you out instead of having your people around you pull you down. And so it's a good way to really like assess where you are and what's contributing to the situation that you're in. Is it the people that you're spending time with, and in making that conscious effort? And basically the universe was like, okay, you've got it, you figured it out, now here's your person to help pull you out.
Absolutely. And you're using the analogy of pulling out, and it takes me back to that expression, being in the well, right? The well, when I think of the well, so many of us are living in this well, and we want other people to come in the well with us. And there lies a victim mentality. Woe is me. I'm sad. Look at me. Feel sorry for me. This is who did this to me. This is why I am where I am. And I was in that well. Not to keep changing analogies, but there's so many ways of looking at it. And I was a victim, and there's so many of us who were victims. So when it comes to being around that particular circle of people who can actually be there to support you, yeah, that's when the hand comes out. Once you realize that you don't want to be in that well anymore, you can't get out of the well. But when you make that conscious decision of wanting to get out, the hand comes out and says, come with me.
Well, I'm glad you changed metaphors, because it's a beautiful metaphor, and I don't understand. I don't know why crabs are in a bucket. So,
it takes me to when people are competing with each other. They're going to say,
yeah.
no, you're not going to get on top. I'm going to get on top of you first. That's what I think of crabs in a barrel.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
And you were, is there more to the story? Because I had a question about earlier, but if there's more to the story, you may continue.
Oh no, go right ahead. I love questions.
You were fine, if I remember correctly, you were financially dependent on your husband when you found out that he wasn't coming home, and there was no opportunity for him to continue to support you financially.
That's correct. And which takes me back to losing everything. Is when I'm a first-time mom, and I needed to, my body needed to be healed after my birth, even though everything was fine, baby was fine, I was fine, but I still needed that rest as moms, newborn, right? And feeling of overwhelmed and joy and all these emotions. And yeah, when I was financially dependent on him. So when this happened, we were actually homeless, and we had no money to buy food or to provide for a son. So that in itself, that was a huge lesson that I learned as well. Financial independence.
Yeah.
So
I mean, talk about shell shock, because I don't know about you, but I had a picture of what my life was going to look like as a mom and as a wife, and in my business. Like, I had it all, just all the details.
Right? I think we all do, though. Most of us do. Because I feel that it's your DNA. What are your thoughts on that? Right? Or is it just what we're taught?
I think it might be in our DNA. I hadn't thought about that, but I know it's in our programming, and it's in our society. And what we were, my fiance and I were talking about this last night, that it's like we have a picture of what relationships look like. We have a picture of what families look like. We have a picture of what our jobs are supposed to look like, based on TV shows and movies, and we were talking in the context of relationships being a lot of drama, and thinking about like what movies and TV shows tell women that men need. And what men are actually saying that they need is like way simpler than what's out there. So that was the context of that conversation. But yeah, I think that there's, we're intentionally and unintentionally programmed of what things are supposed to look like. And then when we don't fall into that mold, we feel like we're wrong and that we messed up and that we're
And
not enough.
with the pressure.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I never did ask myself, what did I do that was wrong? As far as with the relationship, I just knew what I wanted. Like you, I had my blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
house, the picket fence, we even had the dogs. and, I just wanted to, most women, we want to stay home and raise our babies, most of us, or some of us do, right? And have that house be the house where all the kids in the neighborhood come to and play. That was my vision. Like you said, you had your own vision. Most of us do. And when it doesn't work out that way, it's a shock. It's a beyond a shocker to our mindset. But I feel that is where we take a step back and reflect what was going on or who I am as a person. What was I lacking? Right? Someone actually made a joke about what I wanted when I got together with my son's father, that I wanted this Betty Crocker lifestyle.
Mm.
And I said, what's wrong with Betty Crocker? There's something wrong with that.
Right.
Some women have it. Some families have that lifestyle, but and they may have other challenges going on in their lives. So they may have the family unit, the structure, both parents, everyone's happy, the kids are healthy, but there's something else going on with whoever, whatever. But so the experiences that I find that going through that, I had to check myself. Because obviously I manifested everything in my life back then. I did because of who I was, what I had on the inside of me. Yeah. And as painful as it is, because some of us don't, the ego gets in the way. You're this way, you're that way, you're lacking this, you're lacking that. No, I'm not. How dare you? Who are you to say that I'm lacking, that I'm so insecure and I'm lacking confidence? Right. But that's the ego talking. And it took me a while to understand that I was attached to that ego because I thought I had it all under control. But
it's definitely a bitter pill to swallow when you accept that you attract and have created the things that are in your life.
Who wants to hear that?
Nobody.
What are your thoughts on that?
My only question is, the question that I'm hearing in my head is like, what about people born into situations? And my answer to that is that it's a soul contract. Like, this is something that your soul wanted to learn. And that it's a much higher perspective from that standpoint. And then it's like, it's up to you how long it takes you to learn the lesson that your soul was here to learn.
Interesting. I like that. I like that. So, which takes me back to asking, but how do we know? How do we know? Is there some magic wand, or is there someone or how do we know that we need to learn those lessons? What does it take?
Yeah, my answer to that is one of the lessons that I needed to learn was to love and trust myself. And the way that I learned that lesson was through, my dad being who my dad was. He was a very loving person. but he struggled to show me love the way that I wanted to be loved. So that was my first lesson in he's your teacher of to learn to love yourself. And then I had boyfriends who were also trying to teach me that it was my job to love myself. And then I had two husbands who taught me that it was my job to love myself. And it was finally after the second husband that it was like, oh, okay, it's not his job, it's my job. But the opportunities to learn the lesson were all along the path, but the longer it takes you to understand that these are opportunities, the harder the lesson becomes. So my second husband was the hardest of all of the other lessons.
Good point. I like that, Alicia.
So
Good
sometimes it's looking back wisdom. It's most of the time
point.
it's looking back wisdom. It's a lot of like that we have these moments like, I'm tired of this.
Yes.
And then the solution to how to get rid of this shows up. Like your person handing you the tapes. That was the solution for you to be, that was the solution for you to take the invitation to get out of victimhood.
Absolutely. You said something really, really valuable, that the more time that we take to learn the lessons, the harder the lessons are going to become. And why are we not accepting those experiences as lessons so that we can learn? Because we're just not ready to receive the lessons. And why are we not ready to receive those lessons? I feel that it's our own beliefs, either about ourselves, right? Those old beliefs about ourselves, or maybe some sort of an ego that we're attached to. I know for me personally, I have been, and not by a way where I was obnoxious or rude. I was just not ready because I was a person who actually walked around in pain, playing victim all the time. That everybody treated me badly. Woe is me. I want to be loved. Are you going to protect me? You're supposed to protect me, right? That was my mindset. And it sounds similar to yours, where people said, no, it's not my job to protect you. You have to look after yourself.
Yeah.
and and the lessons, yeah, that's why that lesson of becoming really homeless and broke, yeah, that was a hard lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. Thank you.
And I think it's a function of being human too, that we don't like the lessons come and it requires us to change. And we don't like to change. We
Right.
like the devil, right, is better than this unknown, we think. And so or the pain, is better than this unknown, like, because we don't know that it's going to be better over here. We know how bad it is here and we're good with that. And over there it could be better and it could be worse, so we'll just stay right here.
We feel safe,
Yeah.
right? But we have to ask ourselves, are we thriving in life?
Mm-hmm.
Do I like do I like my life? Am I happy with my life? What does my future look like? Right? What do I want out of life? And I knew that I always wanted more because it was too painful. It was a realization. And so when I hear stories about other women, how it's such a challenge for them to actually go forward due to their unfortunate circumstances or the hardships in their life, I ask them, what is that doing for you? What is holding you back from moving forward? What is preventing you from living the life that you want to live? Sometimes most of us need to find ourselves. Nobody wants to hear that they need to find themselves. I've been told that I need to find myself, but I ignored that person. I was in my 20s. I said, no way. What are you talking about? I had no clue what that meant and didn't care. But yeah, a lot of us, and for moms out there who are struggling, single moms who are struggling, there are lots of us out there who are not able to move forward or overcome these hardships in their lives.
And I think the question you asked is, what's holding me back? Was that the question you asked?
Or what's preventing you? What's preventing you from living the life that you want to live?
So the answer to that question is always you. That's a bitter pill to swallow too. It's always you. Your beliefs, your thought, like the way that you're thinking about the situation. There are other people in your situation that are not struggling with the same thing you're struggling with. So find the solutions. Look for the solutions, because we focus on the problem way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you as a human are the problem. I'm saying the way that you're thinking about the problem is the problem.
The way that we're thinking about the problem, that's why we need to step away from the problem, shift the mindset, and focus on the solution.
Yes.
Focus on a solution.
And in today's world, you might be seeing this clip on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and it's a 30-second clip, and you're going to hear what we're saying. It's going to piss you off. And this is the only time in human existence where we've had so much access to information. We've had and the information can piss you off, and it can lead you to growing.
Right. Absolutely. But guess what? Why do you think it's getting us so upset? Because of the triggers that we have within ourselves. Yeah. Because those triggers, it takes me back to a quick 60-second short with Wayne Dyer. He said, when you squeeze an orange, what do you get out of an orange? Orange juice. Can't get anything else other than orange juice, right? When someone squeezes you, or when somebody gets you really angry, right? Whatever's coming out of you is in you. Yeah. So it's really, like you said earlier, it's you. The problem is us. So
bitter pill to swallow, but at the same time, what I love about it is that means that I have control. If it's in me, if it's up to me, if it's because of me, I can control that. I can change me to change my situation. And that should give, hope instead
some
of
kind of hope.
Yeah,
absolutely. At the same time, it's all about the approach too with others. It's all about the approach. It's about asking the right questions, because nobody wants to feel like they're being judged.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but like you said, there's just way too much information at the tip of our fingers to find the resources and to get the support that we need, because it's out there. Mm-hmm. It's out there, but we have to want it, because nobody likes to be living in discomfort and pain and hardship.
Right.
What is holding you back?
Right.
So
this is such a juicy conversation, but is there a
we could go on and on about
this. Is there a piece of advice you want to share with moms?
I do. Amazing things can happen to any one of you, to us all, actually, right? We don't want the difficult situations to stop us whatsoever. However, amazing things can happen to each and every one of us. We just have to believe in ourselves. We really do. And what does it take for us to believe in ourselves? We have to change the mindset. Not even change, we have to create new beliefs within ourselves. Know that we're worthy of so much more. know that we are worthy of so much more, know that we are deserving of so much more. And the resources are out there to help us. It's all about just opening up our mouths, because when we don't open up our mouths, we don't get fed the things that we need.
Mhm.
So we have to ask, we have to put ourselves in a vulnerable place, right? Be vulnerable, and the right people will show up. But we have to want the changes. We have to want it first.
I love that. So you mentioned that somebody handed you some books. Was there a book that was no, you said CDs, but was there a book that was instrumental in your personal development journey?
You mean as far as a book that I might have read?
Yeah.
Or a book for you know what I did? I actually read quite a few times. Oh my goodness, I actually have it. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Hmm.
Yes. And I highlighted enough in that book those valuable little nuggets. And I handed it over to my son with a special note written to him
Hmm.
that this is his book that he needs to start reading. It's the most valuable book. And it's not about money. It's just about the richness within ourselves and how we can acquire the things that we want in life to have a brighter and a better future. So
It's funny, I actually have that book on Audible and I haven't listened to it yet. And
it's
I thought it was about money.
it is such a powerful book. And you know, this when I read it the second time, I learned something new out of it. So, and it's an easy reader too. It really is. I gravitate towards the easy readers, but very valuable. So yes, that's one book I do recommend. Think and Grow Rich. Very helpful in life.
And I think in 3 years, that's the first time anybody's ever recommended that book.
Really?
I think so. I can't believe it's been almost 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, but of 2.5 years of podcast. But and only a handful of books have been mentioned twice. That's why I asked the question, because it gives us, like, I could tell you 10 books that I've read in the last year, and they would probably be different from the ones that you've read. And that's like the cool thing. That's such a cool thing,
Yeah, you know, it's I'm usually an audio person.
Mm-hmm.
Just how I learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have to, in order for me to learn, I have to replay, lots of replaying. However, I'm not only learning, but I'm also studying.
Mm.
So, so many of us say, yes, I've listened to that audio before. Absolutely. But are we really studying it and applying it to our lives?
Right.
There lies a difference, because I never did for several years after listening to so many thought leaders through audio. I wasn't applying it to my life
Right.
until I got tested 8 years later. I don't know if, just to quickly share this story, when I reunited with my son's father, and when we got back together, and there was so much hardship in the relationship, just one trial after the other. And then and the first 6 months was the most painful 6 months. So considering I've come this far, right? And now here I am, 8 years later, here I am, I'm dealing with this. And I thought, whoa, wait a second. Not supposed to be happening. What's going on? And then that was when I realized that I've actually outgrown him.
Mm.
I was not that same person when he met me 8 years prior to. So, so those lessons can actually they add value to our lives without even knowing it.
Right.
We have to, until the other tests and trials come up, and then we realize, wait a second, I learned this 5 years ago. This is not supposed to be happening. I'm not that same person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. So just going back to, go ahead.
No, I've had similar experiences. Continue.
So just going back to reading, yeah. And it's and the audios and how we process things, and we will get tested again, and it definitely starts to open up that other part of our minds to where we start to really practice what we learned.
Yeah.
Because it took me 8 years to start applying it to my life. And it was almost like, oh, the most empowering feeling ever. Wow, I've come this far. 8 years, and this is what I now know who I am. I love myself so much. I never realized how much I had fallen in love with who I was.
Mm,
And how much I knew that I was deserving of so much more. Nothing against my son's father, not at all. It was about me. It was more about me. And a lot of times, as women, we tend to feel obligated to have to keep our family together. And, we feel that we're less of a person because we're now breaking off a relationship, the father of our children. It shouldn't be that way. And we're going to fight for this marriage because I want our family to be together. My kids need to be with their dad. No, that's what we're taught.
right.
Those are the limiting beliefs that we've been taught by society and by our parents. And then we're labeled as being selfish because we're not breaking up our family. No, I could not wait to step away from this dysfunctional marriage. It was a celebration for me. It was
the puzzle pieces didn't fit anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love all that, because I think that what we need to focus on, instead of, and I'm using air quotes, keeping the family together, let's work on connecting with each other ahead of time and making sure that we actually do fit to begin with. And then as we grow, make sure that we're growing together. Because any number of those, like, you start off and you don't actually fit, but you're trying to make it fit. And then you have kids and then you realize that you don't fit, or you guys did fit at one point, but one person's growing and another person's not growing. And like, there's so many factors, but like, instead of keep the family together, let's create the family together.
I love it.
Make sure that we understand who we are ahead of time before we're jumping into these relationships to find people to complete me. Right?
Yeah. Because we want to settle down.
Right.
Ooh. That word scares me.
Right. That'll be a whole other podcast. Where can our this has been so valuable, really. And one thing I just wanted to add about reading books and knowing the information and whatnot, like the thought that I just bought a book and I was listening to it and I was like, yeah, I know all this. And then I was like, but am I doing it? And I'm not. So maybe I need to listen. It's like, maybe I need to listen to it, because if you know it but you're not doing it, then do you really know it?
It means nothing anymore.
Right. It means absolutely nothing.
If we're not paying attention to it, it means nothing.
Right.
Right. So
where can our listeners find you?
On LinkedIn, I have there's valuable content out there for those who are seeking support. And yeah. And future upcoming podcasts, they're on the way. Some beautiful things are happening on the horizon, but right now, LinkedIn, definitely.
And so I'll have the link in the description of the episode so that people can find you. I appreciate you being on the podcast and pouring into our guests and co-creating some really cool thought processes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So there'll be another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.